Hello and welcome back to Pick'em. What might be the final week of Pick'em, depending on how our prep teams do in playoff action this weekend. Two teams advancing to the second round of the playoffs, starting off this week with West Catholic visiting Reed City. Reed City coming off a big win against Kelloggsville in the opening round last week. West Catholic, the defending state champions. Bob, obviously West Catholic comes in with the pedigree. The defending state champions are from West Michigan, a league that a lot of more people respect. What does Reed City have to do to make this a competitive game and to get a little bit of respect, being that they're a 10-0 team or a 10-0 team coming into this game?
I think Reed City has to do two things. First, and Coach Price has been working on this, ever since Friday's victory. Yes, West Catholic is the defending Division V state champions. That was last year. This is this year. And he's been pounding that into his kids' heads that was last year, and they got to come up here and take them on their home field. The second part of that is they also have to have long, drawn-out drives, 10, 12 play drives that takes a lot of time off the clock. Get that West Catholic offense off the field as long as possible, and maybe more importantly, have those long drives, finish them off with touchdowns. Those long drives don't work without scoring points.
Brandon, West Catholic presents a unique challenge in that they're probably the most athletic team that Reed City is going to face this year. How do they minimize some of that athleticism that West Catholic brings to the table by enforcing their own will on the offensive and defensive side of the ball?
I think the main thing for Reed City to have to do against West Catholic is to go with their bread and butter, and that's their defense. Their defense has been strong all year, and they're going to have to contain West Catholic in order to actually control the ball, like Bob said. They've got a good offense. They're going to have to execute, and it's going to be a tough game for Reed City.
Bob, looking for your prediction on this game. Reed City is a team that likes to possess the ball. West Catholic would like to make this a shootout, I would imagine. Who's going to get the better of this matchup? Who do you got winning this one?
I like West Catholic, and I think this is going to be a track meet, and there's going to be some points put on the board. And I like West Catholic because I think they played a tougher schedule of competition this year, and I think ultimately that proves to be the difference in this game.
Brandon, some of your thoughts on who you got winning this one. I know Reed City is a team that just hasn't gotten a ton of respect despite being 10-0 this year. Do they earn the ultimate respect by beating the defending state champs this week?
Reed City scored more points. They allowed less points. But as Bob said, West Catholic played some pretty good teams that are considered pedigreed schools, perennial powerhouses. It could happen. Reed City could nip them in the bud, but like I said, West Catholic played some pretty good teams, and I got them just inching this one out.
Yeah, I've got West Catholic winning this one as well. I got to agree with Coach Price, though, that this isn't last year's West Catholic team. They did lose a couple games this year. I think this is going to be a lot closer than some people are predicting. I say Reed City gives them a pretty big fight, but ultimately West Catholic wins out in this one. Our next prep game we're going to take a look at is Morley Stanwood. They're going to travel to Clare this week, coming off an emotional tight win last week against Shelby on the road, in which Tyler Wilcox hit a field goal to extend the Mohawk season one more week. Bob, how much does a game like that take out of a team like a Morley Stanwood, and does that have any effect on them this week, being that they use so much energy to pull out that opening win?
I think it would take something out of the Mohawks if they were playing like the next night or 2 nights later. But they've had a week to recover. They're preparing for another game. And, this group of seniors, there's 14, 15 of them, they want to get back to where they were last year, which means they have to win this week. And I wouldn't expect a letdown of any sorts. I think they're going to come out ready to play, against a very good Clare team.
Brandon, Bob mentioned the experience factor for Morley Stanwood. A lot of these guys, this is their third go at it in the playoffs. How big of a factor is that when you're playing against a team like Clare, who's very talented?
For Morley Stanwood, experience is going to be the big difference this week, I think, for them. Clare, though, also has the experience. they're perennially in the playoffs. They can play with the big boys like Morley Stanwood, and they can put up a lot of points too.
Yeah, this is a great matchup between two teams that have had a lot of success in recent years. I've got Morley Stanwood just because I have more experience watching them over the past years. They seem to have that killer instinct late in the game to be able to win those. They've been battle tested. I think they squeak out another one against Clare this week. Bob, obviously these two teams match up well on paper. Who do you got winning this one between Morley Stanwood and Clare this week?
You know, just looking at the numbers, they're very equal. Clare has a running back who has rushed for 1,900 yards. Morley Stanwood has a team have 2,300 yards among their big three. You know, on paper, it's about as even as they get. And I'm going with Clare for no other reason than they're home. I think that is a big part of the equation here. It wouldn't be a stunner if Morley won, but I'm picking Clare just because they are home.
Brandon, you think that Morley Stanwood moves on here? I mean, they've got a lot of experience in the playoffs, and is that going to help them this week?
I think the senior leadership for Morley Stanwood is going to come out strong and help the younger guys come up and play a very good team and come out ahead. I think Morley Stanwood pulls away third quarter and gets back up to their average of about 40 points a game.
Okay, we're going to take a look at the college ranks now, and starting off with Ferris State, coming off a tough loss against Indianapolis last week. That's 3 losses in the last 4 games for the Bulldogs. Not for a lack of effort. Ferris definitely battled against a pretty tough Indianapolis team last week. At the same time, you have to wonder if that's taking a toll on the Bulldogs at this point in the season. They're 5-4, looking for their first winning season in a few years. Bob, does that start to wear on a team when you've lost 3 out of 4, even when you've really battled in all of those games? But does that have some sort of a factor, coming into this game against Michigan Tech?
It does, but I think Jeff Pierce and the coaching staff do a good job preparing the kids for that rigors of the GLIAC. And you hear Pierce say every week is a battle in the league. That's why they have that off-season workouts that, every week they know they got to be prepared for another battle. This week is going to be no different, and taking an 8-hour bus ride is not going to be a lot of fun for them, but I would expect them to come out ready to play.
Brandon, what does Ferris have to do well against Michigan Tech? They haven't had the same success that they've had earlier in the season on offense. That's been one thing that I've noticed. What do the Bulldogs have to do to get back on track?
First and foremost, they need to wipe their minds clean of the last 3 weeks, at least from the game standpoint. When it comes down to is executing, getting their offense back to rolling, averaging 400 yards a game. Their defense needs to stand up, and they need to actually get into the red zone and score.
Yeah, I agree. The offense hasn't been a problem for Ferris State moving the ball, but when you get into the end zone or the red zone, that's where they've had some problems. They haven't been able to put points on the board there, and the special teams have also been detrimental to the Bulldogs in recent weeks. That's going to be a key factor in this game. So, Bob, looking at this matchup, Michigan Tech on the road, this is a team that Ferris has not had success against over the past decade. Do they go on the road and get a huge win?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of factors going against Ferris this week, namely the long bus trip. And Michigan Tech is a very good football team, and I think they got this one pretty comfortably.
Brandon, both of these teams come into the game with identical 5-4 records. Does Ferris still have a lot to play for at this point in the season, or is this season considered a disappointment? And who do you have winning this week?
I think this season is going to be judged on these last couple games that Ferris plays. That's the only thing you can do. They can either bow out right now, keep their heads hanging low, and just say, well, we did a good job and we showed up, but oh well. No, I think Ferris comes out hard. I just think they come up short this week at least. But there's still a lot to play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Ferris is has a lot on their side in terms of that they have not given up at any point in this season. The problem is they're injury-ridden at this point in the year, and this is not the same team that was rolling up those high yardage and point totals early in the year. I think Michigan Tech, if this game were at Top Taggart, I think Ferris would have a legitimate shot of winning. It's a tall order, though, to head up to the UP and try to take down Michigan Tech. I think Michigan Tech wins a close one here. Looking at the Big Ten, Michigan still in the running for a Legends Division title, one of our favorite terms to use here on Pick'em. They're going to travel to Iowa City this week to take on an Iowa team that has struggled in recent weeks. A tough loss last week to lowly Minnesota. You have to wonder if that's going to have an effect on Iowa this week, Bob. But Iowa always plays well at home. Do you think that they have a hangover against Michigan this week?
I think the first couple minutes, possessions, you're going to find out if there's that hangover effect on them. I wouldn't expect one. This is Big Ten football. You got to come out ready to play. It's going to be a smash mouth kind of game that Brady Hoke absolutely loves, and I'm sure he's got that. The offensive defensive lines especially excited to play this game.
Brandon, how tough is it for Michigan to travel to Iowa City and get a road win in the Big Ten at a place where Iowa plays very well?
It shouldn't be hard for Michigan to go in there. Like Bob said, the first couple of possessions are really going to set the tone of the game, and really Michigan's got to stick with their bread and butter and run the ball. They've got to have Denard Robinson be an effective player.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a statistic to keep in mind, though, is Iowa's 59-12 over the past decade at home inside the Big Ten. So that's going to be a huge factor in this. I think looking forward to this game, Michigan needs to be able to run the football, and hopefully Denard Robinson won't make too many errors in the passing game if they're going to be effective on offense. With that said, Bob, who do you got winning this week?
I think Michigan's success comes down to the running game and not Denard Robinson. Toussaint's got to get the ball 20, 25 times. If that happens, that means Michigan's controlling the clock. And if they're controlling the clock, they're winning this football game. I think they do, and I think they win, pretty comfortably for a Big Ten game.
Brandon, is there a reason for concern heading into Iowa for Michigan this week? Who do you got winning?
There's always a reason of concern if the guys aren't prepared enough, but I think Coach Hoke does a great job, and he's going to have them prepared. It's going to be loud, it's going to be fun, it's going to be a beat-down type of game. They're going to go out and play physical football, but I think Michigan's going to come out ahead and pull away towards the second half, 3 scores.
I agree that Michigan gets a win this week, but I think it's going to be a lot tougher than people realize. Iowa always plays a lot better at home than they do on the road. You've also got to consider is that Michigan is still only 1 year removed from some of the most atrocious defensive play that we've seen them play in a very long time. A lot of those players are still on that team. I think Michigan is a much different team than that team a year ago, but it's still going to be a little bit of a challenge for them to win in Iowa City. I've got them winning by a touchdown. Our final game to look at for this week is Minnesota traveling to Michigan State. Michigan State, after a murderous schedule the past three weeks against Ohio State, Michigan, and then Wisconsin, finally caught up to them on the road against Nebraska, losing 24-3. The Spartans did not look good offensively. Defensively, they continue to be very solid. Bob, I don't think the question is whether they're going to rebound this week, but by how much.
I think you're absolutely right. If college football had a running clock, I think this game would have it, and pretty quick. I think Michigan State rolled over Minnesota. Minnesota has only 2 wins, and they beat Iowa, but they've also lost to a sub-college bowl team. Michigan State wins this by a lot, and they get right back on track.
On the same token, though, Minnesota, Brandon, has competed. They lost to USC by 2 points in the first game of the year, and then they beat Iowa, who's a legitimate Big Ten team. Is there any reason for concern for Michigan State this week?
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to let down, especially when you still have a chance for a Legends division or a Legends conference, trophy hanging in your case next to all the basketball ones. But what it comes down to is execution and really Michigan State playing their defense, getting their offense back on track. I don't even want to suggest a score because it'll be way off. Michigan State by 1,000.
I think it's going to be less than 1,000 based on typical college football scores from the past 100 years, but it's going to be a little closer than that. I think the key for Michigan State this week is getting their offense back on track. They had some questionable play calling against Nebraska. The defense is going to completely shut down Minnesota. We know that. I think Michigan State wins by a little less than what people are thinking. I'll say about 30 points in this one. That's going to do it for this week's Pick'em. As always, you can check out BigRapidsNews.com for coverage of all of these games, and check out the weekend edition of the Pioneer for further coverage.